Hi. For those of you with PDA, or for those of you who have attention deficit hyperactivity issues, you may have found by now that education can be an extremely difficult and confusing process. You may find that sitting in a classroom with many other people with a rather authoritarian figure disseminating information is not the context in which you can easily absorb information. The ADHD brain is distinguished by its incredible ability to generate ideas at a rapid pace. And as someone with an ADHD brain, for me, the suppression of all of those ideas can give rise to hyperactivity and inattentiveness. If we are forced to sit still against our will, if we are asked to concentrate on one particular thing at a time, then all of those ideas that continually flood and flow from the ADHD brain gets cut off or suppressed or stunted. And my analogy for this would be, imagine a beaver building a dam across a river. In this case, the water represents the ideas. The flowing water represents the ever-flowing stream of ideas that run through our brains, because creativity is the quintessence of the ADHD mind. And all of those ideas have to go somewhere. The water will continue to build, to rise. The ideas in the ADHD brain continue to rise, continue to flow. And there's only so many ideas that can fill the ADHD mind. And eventually, those ideas will burst. Those ideas will, or the mind will no longer be able to hold all of those ideas at once. And that's when the impulses kick in. If you're a parent, I'm sure you're all too familiar with the horror stories your child's teacher may relay. Oh, he did this. He set the fire alarm off. He got up on his desk. He kind of took over the class. He hijacked the class. He attacked one of his fellow students. Those ideas need an outlet. At the end of the day, if those ideas don't have an outlet, they will burst open this valve and manifest as impulses. The impulses retain a creative element to them. The impulses may be incredibly destructive and to the detriment of those within the individual's immediate surroundings, but they're still amazing nonetheless. So that's an example of how a classroom is not the ideal situation in which the ADHD/PDA mind can flourish, absorb information, and ultimately learn. Another thing is, it's a myth that people with ADHD can't learn. People with ADHD can learn incredibly well. They need to discover the means by which they can learn. And that would be to allow the individual with that brain to follow what I refer to as the inbuilt or inner curriculum, whereby the individual is irreducibly and immeasurably engrossed in one particular subject or area. That subject will dominate the individual's life. All they can really think about is that subject, because at the time they become interested in the subject, their minds are ready to receive and store any information related to that subject. Very often, the inner curriculum and the school curriculum would be out of sync. At least there's a probability that they'll be out of sync. So where within a school, the individual would find themselves in a maths lesson, which would be extremely far removed from the subject that the individual is currently engrossed in. So it could be history, British monarchs, communism, politics in general, dietetics, car mechanics, anything, languages, you name it. All they are ready to do at that time, all they are prepared to do, is relinquish all else in pursuit of their subject. So if they have maths coming their way, when their brain is at the time only open and receptive to, let's say, linguistics as an example, the mind will deflect, the mind will protect itself from any oncoming information that isn't related to linguistics. If the individual is permitted to study solely towards linguistics, and I'm aware at this point that this could be a teenager or a child, sorry, the ambulance distracted me, and they may not be of an age where they can attend a university or college course, but if they're given the space to learn, if they're given access to the right books and the right sources online, then they will plough through the subject so quickly, with such passion, with such zeal, with such tenacity, that they will retain and remain focused on all of the information related to linguistics. Occasionally, the inbuilt curriculum and the school curriculum can converge or intersect, which would be a source of great confusion to the teacher. Say, for example, the child or individual is currently super interested in British monarchs, and they've just come out of a maths class, a class in which the student was irritatingly disruptive, to the teacher and to their fellow classmates. Then they enter a history class, and the history class happens to be about British monarchs. The teacher may find that that individual ceases to be so disruptive, ceases to act so antisocially. They will observe the individual's face light up. They will observe how the information, the individual's attention does not waver, and they listen, because that is the subject that currently dominates that individual's life. And it's not even restrictive or exclusive. Say, for example, an individual with an ADHD brain becomes heavily engrossed in astronomy. They're not merely learning about stars and planets. They're learning new vocabulary which appertains to that field. They may have to end up fine-tuning their mathematical skills. They may feel tenacious enough to try and calculate distances. They'll have to practice memorizing many new concepts, so new words can be learned. Mental arithmetic can be executed, all within one subject. So the mind of the, and I'm using PDA and ADHD collectively because there's a lot of overlap between the two conditions. I have both, and sometimes I wonder how different they really are. I could be doing something, or I could find myself carrying out a behaviour and I'll think that was quite PDA, but it could also be quite ADHD at the same time. So there's much overlap between the two. But in this case, when it comes to learning, the two are indistinguishable and learn in precisely the same way. Thanks.